After an engine failure forces a helicopter down into rough scrubland, a young woman makes a split-second decision to parachute into the Sahara Desert in Africa. Alone in extreme heat and uncertainty, she turns fear into focus through calm survival skills, smart planning, and practical decision-making under pressure. This story-driven episode presents solo camping and survival in a safe, educational, and responsible way, showing step-by-step techniques such as finding and filtering water, choosing a safer campsite near riverside vegetation, building a strong temporary shelter to deter dangerous animals, making fire using primitive methods, foraging edible plants, catching fish, and using effective rescue signals. Along the way, she encounters a trapped husky and rescues it carefully and responsibly. The husky becomes a loyal teammate, highlighting ethical outdoor behavior, basic first aid awareness, and calm problem solving in dangerous situations. All animal interactions are shown non-graphically and with a strong focus on safety and respect. With natural sound, cinematic pacing, and thoughtful storytelling, this survival camping experience remains informative, family-friendly, and suitable for a general audience, showing how calm choices matter in harsh environments. The roar of the engine suddenly sputtering and dying is a sound you never want to hear, especially when you're thousands of feet above the endless expanse of the Sahara. The helicopter lurched, a sickening drop that stole the breath from my lungs. Below, there was nothing but a sea of sand and rugged, unforgiving scrubland. There was no time to panic, only time to act. In a split-second decision, I grabbed my pack, clipped on the emergency parachute, and leaped out into the searing African air. The silence after the chaos was deafening, broken only by the wind whistling past me. As I drifted down, the sheer scale of the desert hit me. I was a tiny speck in an ocean of orange and gold. Landing was rough, a tumble through thorny bushes that left me scratched and breathless. But I was alive. The helicopter was a smoking ruin miles away. I was completely, utterly alone. Fear, cold and sharp, tried to take hold, but I pushed it down. Panic is a luxury I couldn't afford. Focus, that's what I needed. Calm survival skills, smart planning, practical decisions. That's how I would get through this. My first priority was water. The sun was relentless, beating down with an intensity that felt personal. I checked my pack, 2 small bottles of water, a multi-tool, a fire starter, and some paracord. Not much, but it was a start. I knew from my training that dry riverbeds, or wadis, can sometimes hold water beneath the surface. I looked for signs of life. Any patch of green meant moisture. After hours of walking, my hope dwindling with my water supply, I spotted it. A thin line of hardy vegetation snaking through the dunes. I started digging. My hands were raw, but the sand grew cooler, then damp, and then finally a small, muddy puddle. It wasn't much, but it was life. I used a piece of cloth from my pack to filter out the worst of the sediment, letting the precious drops collect in my bottle. With water secured for the moment, my next thought was shelter. The temperature would plummet after sunset, and I'd be exposed to whatever creatures roamed the desert night. I chose a spot near the riverside vegetation, partially shielded by a small rock outcropping. Using my multi-tool and some fallen branches, I began constructing a simple A-frame shelter. It needed to be sturdy enough to offer protection and a sense of security. As I worked, weaving smaller branches and leaves into the frame, a strange sound caught my attention. It was a faint, desperate whimpering. Following the sound, I found him. A beautiful husky, its leg caught in a cruel, rusty trap, likely left by poachers long ago. His eyes were filled with pain and fear, but he didn't growl as I approached slowly. I spoke to him in a low, calm voice, showing him I meant no harm. Freeing him would be risky. I found a long, sturdy branch to use as a lever, carefully working it to pry open the jaws of the trap. It was a tense few minutes, but with a final grunt of effort, the trap sprang open. The husky limped free, his relief palpable. I used my small first aid kit to clean the wound as best I could, tearing a strip from my shirt to make a makeshift bandage. From that moment on, I wasn't alone. He stayed by my side, a silent, furry guardian. I decided to call him Echo. That night, huddled in my shelter with Echo pressed against me for warmth, I felt a renewed sense of determination. The next day we set out together. With Echo's keen senses, we found a small pool of clearer water where I managed to catch a couple of small fish using a simple line, and hook fashioned from my paracord, and a piece of my multi-tool. I made fire using the primitive bow drill method, a skill I'd practiced but never had to use for real. The warmth of the flames was more than just physical. It was a beacon of hope in the vast darkness. We ate our small meal, a team sharing in our survival. Days turned into a week. We moved methodically, following the wadi, hoping it would lead to a larger river or civilization. One afternoon, while gathering firewood, Echo started barking insistently, running towards a rocky overhang. I followed cautiously and found a small weathered leather satchel tucked away in a crevice. Inside was a diary. The entries, written in faded ink, told the story of another survivor, a geologist who had been stranded here years ago. He wrote of his struggles, his discoveries, and his eventual despair. But the last entry gave me a surge of adrenaline. It described a hidden cache of supplies he'd left in a cave marked by 3 tall, pillar-like rocks, about 2 days' walk to the north. It was a huge risk, a detour from the relative safety of the wadi, but the diary mentioned a radio. A radio could be our ticket out. We set off at dawn, the geologist's words guiding us. The journey was grueling, the landscape more barren than anything we'd seen before. But 2 days later, we saw them. 3 stone pillars rising from the sand, just as he'd described. The cave was small, its entrance almost hidden. Inside, covered by a dusty tarp, was the cache, canned food, more water, a flare gun, and there it was, a hand-crank radio. My hands trembled as I picked it up. I cranked it frantically, the static slowly giving way to a faint voice. I shouted into the microphone, my voice hoarse, explaining our situation, giving our approximate location based on the geologist's notes. A voice crackled back, confirming they'd received my signal. A search was being launched. Now, all we could do was wait and make ourselves visible. We climbed to the highest point we could find. Using the flare gun from the cache, I fired a bright red flare into the endless blue sky. It felt like sending a prayer into the heavens. Hours passed, the sun began to set, painting the sky in fiery colors. Just as my hope started to fade, I heard it, a faint, distant buzzing. Echo heard it too. His ears perked, his tail starting a slow, hopeful wag. The sound grew louder, closer, until a rescue plane appeared as a speck on the horizon. We were saved. Standing there, with my loyal companion by my side, I wasn't just a survivor. I was a testament to the power of calm choices, resilience, and the incredible bond that can form in the harshest of places. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories of survival and adventure.